Hello, and we're continuing with our series on what is the National Education Policy as well as the National Curriculum Framework 2020 and 2023 saying about developing critical thinking in our classrooms. This is episode 2. Do check out episode 1 where we have talked about cross-curricular integration to leading to critical thinking and then also to problem solving. This episode will take us through understanding number one, why do we need critical thinking in life? And then we will solve examples or what can you do in the classroom when you're teaching science, maybe, and then also something about mathematics. Just two quick examples to show you how everyday science and everyday mathematics can also be converted into a very, very challenging situation in the class, which allows all children to think and practice critical thinking. So why do we do it? We do it all the time in life. Whenever you are evaluating options and making a choice, shall I do this? Shall I do that? Shall I do this course or that course? आप कुछ ना कुछ सोच रहे हैं और उसकी तुलना कर रहे हैं और फिर आप डिसीजन पे जब पहुंचते हैं नतीजे पर, you are actually engaging in critical thinking. Whenever you're thinking about pros and cons of a policy, यही ले लीजिए नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी, इसके बारे में भी इसकी अच्छाइयाँ बुराइयाँ जब हम सोचने लगते हैं, so we are actually engaged in critical thought. Whenever you ask for an evidence कि भाई मैं ये क्यों मानूं, खास करके इतिहास में, whenever we're teaching history, we must teach our children to what evidence do we have? Why should I believe this? You are engaging then in critical thinking. Whenever you are able to compare and contrast two ideas, and this is the best way that human beings know of learning. कोई भी नई चीज जब हमारे पास आती है, we compare it with something we already know. Take the example of also the National Curriculum Framework. We also had one in 2005, and we are comparing to see how is this better than that, and so on. Whenever we are able to find some statement illogical even within a given document, इसी को ले लीजिए, in the NEP they have said that all children have equal rights to good education, and then they go on to say कि gifted बच्चों के लिए कुछ और कीजिए. यहाँ थोड़ा सा logical contradiction है. So whenever we are able to find that, then you are doing critical thinking. Whenever we are reading actively, questioning, clarifying the text, we are engaging in critical thinking. And lastly, an everyday example again, before we enter into the classroom and take examples of primary science and also mathematics, we are doing critical thinking whenever we are developing perspectives. मैं इस पक्ष के लिए वोट दूं या उस पक्ष के लिए और क्यों? We are believing a certain kind of ideology, exploring those beliefs. Do I really agree with this? Developing a perspective and therefore doing critical thinking. All of this in our everyday life also helps us to become fair-minded intellectuals with no bias whatsoever towards any one thing. Let's enter therefore the brain before we enter the classroom. Now the human brain is supposed to have these two hemispheres. Lots of videos must be going around. You must have heard a lot. बहुत कुछ सुना होगा आपने. Left brain, right brain, whole brain. बहुत कुछ बोला है. सिंपल सी चीज है, जो राइट ब्रेन कहा जाता है या राइट हेमिस्फीयर जो है, कहते हैं रिसर्च से बोला गया है that this is supposed to be the more creative brain. More passionate rather, poets and sculptors and painters and designers and so on seem to have a more dominant right brain. जबकि scientists and analytics का जो हाँ भी काम है, they're supposed to have a more dominant left hemisphere. मगर याद रखें कि इन दोनों को connection है through the nerves, corpus callosum, हम उसमें अभी नहीं जाएंगे. So both these are required for actually doing critical and creative thinking, which leads to problem solving. एक छोटा सा diagrammatic उदाहरण. Creative thinking क्या है? Whenever we are generating a lot of ideas, a lot of solutions, and providing a lot of alternatives, इसको lateral thinking भी कहा गया है. एक और लफ्ज, creative thinking, lateral thinking. मान लीजिए हमारे बच्चों को हमारे स्कूल में बच्चे ही नहीं आ रहे, एडमिशन नहीं मिल रही. So when we generate a lot of reasons कि भाई ये क्यों हो रहा होगा, is it too far, is my fees too high, is it because I don't like this board and so on and so forth, we are actually generating a lot of solutions. But when we try to zero in on one, उस वक्त हम इवैल्यूएटिव थिंकिंग या स्ट्रेटेजिक थिंकिंग या कन्वर्जेंट थिंकिंग या क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग कर रहे हैं. So creative thinking is also known as lateral thinking or divergent thinking, whereas critical thinking is also known as evaluative or convergent thinking. इसको हमने पहले भी फिजिक्स में भी इस तरह से समझ सकते हैं that whenever there are divergent rays of a light, as we all know, when we are exploring possibilities, that is also known as divergent thinking or creative thinking. And when from all of those solutions we come to one strategic answer, we are then doing critical thinking or also known as convergent thinking. Poets, painters, sculptors, dancers, musicians, वगैरह वगैरह, authors, they are supposed to be very very creative because वो उसी चीज को जो पुरानी हम जानते हैं एक नई तरीके से पेश करते हैं. They are able to present something familiar in a new and a novel way. Important thing is both creative and critical thinking together leads to problem solving. Please look at our first episode on critical thinking. जरूर देखिए जहां हमने how does critical thinking lead to problem solving की बात की है with 3 stories. All right. Now let's enter the classroom. Suppose you're doing a science class, okay? And what we do normally, we present the theories, हम बताते हैं ये formula है, ये discovery हुई थी, ये scientist था, वगैरह वगैरह. Rather than doing that, present the students with some kind of a question which allows them higher level thinking, which is critical thinking. मैंने एक उदाहरण लिया है of mollusks, snails, all right? Now you're doing this in the class. Textbook में क्या लिखा है? The snails, attached to the body of the snails are 2 pairs of tentacles and 1 pair of eyes. ये सीधा सीधा किताब में से मैंने लिया हुआ है. Now, rather than normally क्या होगा? ये रट लेंगे बच्चे. All right, they'll just memorize. But we can encourage critical thinking when we say, do you really believe that snails can see? The theoretical answer that the children may give you is, of course, सभी की आंखें होती है, सभी जानवरों को दिखता है. So those dogs also have eyes in them. Maybe they can see. That is a theoretical answer. But there can also be a beautiful experimental answer. It can be, okay, I think snails are very active at night. So maybe they can see light. जैसे ही कोई एक बच्चा इस तरह से कहता है, we should be able to challenge that. Let us see how critical examining can progress regarding snails. Do snails see? ये पूछा गया है. Alright. Now we are examining critically. Somebody has said that maybe they see at night, maybe they see light. So someone can say, a teacher asked, if I shine a torch on a snail, would that change its behavior? And would that prove whether it could or could not see light? Right? फिर कोई ये कह सकता है, what if the snail is moving towards light not because of the light but because of the heat which is coming out of the light? अब यहाँ पे दुविधा आ गई. Is it heat? Is it light? All right. Such discussions can help children. First of all, they listen to each other. They listen to each other's point of view, each other's arguments. और बच्चा ये जानने लगता है कि साइंटिस्ट किस तरह से establish कर पाते हैं उनके beliefs. How do they arrive at certain conclusion? They believe to recognize and appreciate that learning which is gained, that especially about scientific knowledge, is not so easily gained, not so easily given to us. It's the result of a lot of critical thought, a lot of evidence that the scientists have been working for, and together that evidence is arrived at and interpreted as knowledge. All right. So this is to be done in the class to raise the bar of thinking as well as to appreciate how scientists actually work. What about mathematics? Now you might wonder what kind of critical thinking can be done in a simple mathematics class. जब भी हम टीचर से बात करते हैं कि उनको अलग अलग तरीके दीजिएगा to solve mathematical problems, the common answer I hear is नहीं बच्चा confuse हो जाएगा. भाई क्यों confuse हो जाएगा? If you have helped children understand the principles behind any operation in mathematics, why will they be confused? We're going to show you an example of simple multiplication from 2 sides. That means you play around with numbers. ये एक साधा सा सवाल है, सीधा साधा multiplication of 3 digits. जो भी ये वीडियो देख रहा है, I am confident that इसको तो हम कर ही लेंगे, alright, in our own way, mentally with pen and paper. But normally, how do we do this? We begin to multiply with the unit. So we say 6 5s 30, put down a 0, carry forward 3. 6 fours, and then you put a 7, carry 2, 6 threes, and so you get 2070. Now teachers say, let's multiply by 5. जरा एक तरफ shift कर लो, ये भी बहुत ही गलत भाषा है. But I'm not teaching mathematics through this video. However, we are now multiplying by 50, so I put a 0 down first, and then we say, okay, 5 5s 25, 5 fours, 5 threes, and we get this answer. And the last step, of course, is to multiply by the 200. So you put down 2 zeros, and then you say 2 fives, 10, 2 fours, and 2 fifths, and you get 88,320 as the answer. Very simple, isn't it? मगर यहाँ challenge अब आएगी. Now I might want you to try this on your own, even though you're watching a YouTube video right now. What if we do the same multiplication starting with 200? Left से चालू कीजिए. आसान है, मुश्किल नहीं है, कोशिश कर सकते हैं. All right. The problem is we have all rote memorized only one way of doing a multiplication sum or anything in mathematics for that matter in our classes, in our childhood, in our country. When we are raising the bar, allowing them to think critically, I said, of course I can do this. How? I'm going to start with 200, so I'll put 2 zeros down first, the hundreds place. And then I multiply with 2 fives, 10, and 2 fours, and 2 threes, and look what's happening here. The whole thing is getting inverted. Look at the right and look at the left. Beach mein to 50 hai hi, so this answer will be common for both. All right. Now I'm going to be multiplying by 6, and therefore I get this, which we know, and the same answer. All right. But what did we do? We started to multiply from the other side simply with no pen and paper, nothing, as long as we understand how operation on numbers takes place. All right. Critical thinking with numbers and with mathematics. In the next video, we're going to be talking about critical thinking in geography as well as in history and environmental sciences. So do watch out for that. Meanwhile, I hope you can like, subscribe, and share this video forward. Thank you for watching.